Hey guys, it's Kayla, and I just wanted to create a quick video. I'm basically maximizing your season of singleness. So basically, the season of singleness is really one of the most important seasons of your life, and a lot of people enter into it haphazardly, or they think that the season really doesn't mean anything. Like you're just kind of waiting, but God's purpose for this season is so much bigger than that. Like He really wants to use this time to build some things in you, to take some things out of you, maybe some toxic things from childhood, like God really wants to use this time if you'll let Him. And I think that starts by changing your mindset on this season and realizing that your season of singleness has purpose. So these are some things I've learned from reading my Bible, talking with people who have more wisdom than me, praying, like just reading regular books, and so I'm hoping that it will help you all. So really, like I said earlier, the most important thing is to realize how important this season is, and that entering into relationships is really the number one thing that people don't prepare for. Like people are least prepared for relationships. Yes, of course, past relationships will help you in future relationships, but people are least prepared, because what they did in their singleness shows up in their relationships. So for example, I know I can be financially irresponsible, and that is going to show up in my future relationship. I'll go out now and I'll accidentally spend, too much money. But in a relationship, I'm going to have to say, or in my marriage rather, I'm going to have to say, hey, I kind of accidentally spent, but that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable now, but it's really not going to be acceptable in my relationship. So the routines I set in place now will help me when I get there, into a marriage, into a relationship, just because everything is magnified, the things that, the things that you didn't work on. So yeah, in this season, God is really just trying to take some things out of you, and then put some things in you that you need. For example, purpose. Like God is trying to reveal, if you don't already know your purpose, God is trying to reveal to you why He's created you, why He has you on this earth, and what it is that you're supposed to do. And it's going to be so beautiful because you'll see that as you're working in your as you're working in your season of singleness, God is going to, He's also working on your spouse. He's working on that other person. And so when you all come together, your purpose will align with their purpose. And it's going to be so beautiful, just because God is truly handcrafting you all to be together. So yeah, that's another thing God is working on in your season of singleness. So like also routine. I think maybe one of my biggest fears is getting into a relationship. And so like right now, I'm praying and I'm reading my Bible kind of like never before, and my biggest fear is getting into a relationship. And of course, in my singleness, God, right, He's on the throne of my heart. He's my idol. But getting into a relationship and making that person, putting them on the throne of my heart. But I know that the routines that I set now will directly transfer over to my relationship. So if I'm praying, reading my word now, of course I'm gonna have to work at it harder in my relationship, but like you can't start something you never did, So I know that it's truly important now. Also, there's this verse in 1 Corinthians 7:31. It basically says a single person's or an unmarried person's job or concerns are with the kingdom. Like they concern themselves with what the Lord needs from them. But a married person concerns themselves with their spouse. So their time is divided between their spouse and the kingdom. So you'll never have this much time. You'll never have this much like unaccountability. No one's asking you, hey, where are you going? How long are you going to be there? When you coming back? You're single, so you're free to go and come and go as you please. And so really taking advantage of this time. I used to really try to put my life on pause. Like something fun, I would say, you know what, no, I'm just gonna wait until I get into a relationship, because that seems like something couples should do. But you can't wait for that person. You don't want to live your life on pause. I think I spent too many years especially in college, like living my life on pause. And that doesn't mean with the world's standards, you know, of doing the things that the world says I need to be doing, but truly like doing the things that I want to do, doing the things that are fun, and won't cause harm, of course, to me or anyone else, but doing the things that are fun. And so I'm, you know, realizing that I really have to maximize this time, because I won't get it back, you know? And so some ways that I've learned how to live my life with purpose, on purpose, but being single in this season, is really taking myself on dates, you know? No one is going to treat you like you treat you. Or if you treat yourself well, then that person's going to see and they're going to begin to treat you well. So like, what standard are you upholding? But so I take myself out on dates because that's exactly what I expect in a relationship. And I used to use this line for guys who like I wouldn't want to talk to or date or anything, but Jesus is truly my boyfriend, you know? Jesus is my homie, for the guys out there listening. Like, Jesus is your homie, and what you do and how you prepare now with Jesus, like, is going to directly show up in your relationship. Going on dates with Jesus and hanging out with Jesus, he's going to put a mirror up to you and he's going to show you all the different things in you. So for example, if in your relationships, like they've always ended because of X, Y, and Z, but you continue to get in relationship after relationship, not fixing it, it's going to show up. It's going to show up. So in your season of singleness, God is really, that's what he wants to do. He wants to take those things out of you, and put in various things that you'll need. Also, getting to know yourself, you know, like, what do you like? What makes you happy? This is your time to be selfish. It's okay to be selfish while you're single. Like, what do you like? What do you want to do? And finding that out, because you don't want to wait to find that out in your relationship, because then you're going to do all the things that that person wants to do. And then you're going to end up resenting them because you never took the time to really get to know you. And when you're married, you're bound, you know, you're not bound in a negative way, because marriage is a beautiful thing, but you're connected and you're tied to someone, you know, so you can't just go out and kind of, I got to figure out who I am. Like, you should have already done that before you were in a relationship or before you got into a relationship. And I'm going to do another video on people who are already married and feeling like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Because I didn't maximize my season of singleness. So that's coming next. But yeah, and also therapy. People have this negative connotation about therapy, but therapy is an amazing thing, you know? And if you think that God cannot work through a therapist, if you think, you know, okay, I can't go to therapy, but trust in God, like, God can work through anything. So you have to know that he can also work through a therapist. But some ways in which you are not maximizing your singleness, is definitely not being content with being alone. You know, if you cannot just sit and be by yourself, then that's a clear indication that you're struggling. But in this season of singleness, that's something that you can work on. You can work on being at peace with yourself. And truly, if you think that person's going to come, and if you think there's going to be a flip that switches, or flip that switches, you're mistaken, because they're not going to come, and it's not going to be this miraculous thing where like your life just gets better. Of course, this person is supposed to add value to your life, but the things that you're struggling with after that kind of honeymoon phase of the relationship is when the real stuff is going to come out, and the real things that you failed to work on during your singleness. So getting comfortable with yourself is so important. And honestly, if you're searching for something, like, it's not in that person. It's in yourself, and it's in God. If there's a God-shaped hole in your heart, literally only God can fill it. You're going to search for this person, and you're going to think that they can. And when they prove to you that they are literally just a man or a woman, and they're not a God, that's when it's going to be like, okay, like, that's when you're going to have to revamp. But if you did it while you were single and you feel that hole in your heart, that void in your heart, then you're going to be fine. Of course, I'm not saying that doing all these things is the recipe for a great marriage, for a successful marriage, but it really does help you. It really will be an addition to your life and to your relationships. So yeah, these are just some of the things that I've learned. Like I said, and also you all really, so I've created a list, basically a list of characteristics that I want my husband to be. Like, my husband is this, my husband is that. Not vain things, like he gotta be 6'6", and no, like things that I want, like that I expect his heart posture to be. And the same for me, like I'm realizing, and God really humbled me because he said, like, you're asking for someone who's patient, but are you patient? You're asking for someone who's this and who's that, but make sure you're those things as well. But I would definitely encourage you all to write that list, just because, but God knows what you want. At the end of the day, yes, of course, you're writing a list of these are the characteristics I would love for my husband to be, but also realizing that God is going to handcraft this person for you. And even in your season of singleness and all throughout your life, the things that you've experienced, the healing that your spouse needs is in you, and vice versa. The healing that you need is in your spouse. Not only is it in God, but it's in your spouse, and that's why he's handcrafting this person. So it's important to know that the person might not come packaged like you think they should come, but if they're, after you've prayed about it, of course, and if you know they're from God, then you just have to accept the fact that maybe this isn't what I want, but this is what I need, So yeah, and just constantly keeping your future spouse in prayer. The things that, and like, so sometimes, like, if I'm like, okay, God, you're showing me this and I'm getting great in this area, but what about them? Like, are they seeking your face just like I'm seeking your face? And so, like, I'm literally trusting in God. I'm like, I'm holding you to the standard. I'm holding you accountable for the work that you're doing in me, God. I'm trusting that you're doing this work in them as well. And really just holding God accountable in that area. And I trust that God's not going to let me down. And I know that we're going to be equally yoked, just because of the prayers that I'm doing now. And also, you all, it's a verse in Ecclesiastes, but to everything there's a season. So if the person has not come yet, don't give up, and don't go out and try to find your own, try to make it happen on your own. Of course, dating is fine and dating is great, because you're taking data, you're figuring out who you are, who do you like, who do you not like, but don't go and try to do it on your own or in your own strength, and looking at it through your fleshly eyes. But find that person, with the Spirit, using the Holy Spirit, asking the Holy Spirit to go on these dates with you as you, look for that future spouse, that person who's supposed to be in your life. So yes, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If y'all would like the video and then subscribe to my channel, that would be